The Widow Foulon, Born Wallace, Moral Suffering, Attachment, and Awakening of Consciousness. The testimony of the Widow Foulon, born Wallace, presented in the second part of Heaven and Hell, profoundly reveals how spiritual suffering can arise less from overt faults and more from intense emotional attachments, affective illusions, and difficulty in detachment. Her account is an invitation to compassionate understanding of moral pain and the process of awakening consciousness after passing. The Widow Foulon manifests in a state of disturbance and sadness. Her identity remains clear, but her consciousness is still strongly tied to memories, losses, and frustrated expectations of earthly life. This emotional attachment creates an inner state of suffering that is not imposed by any external authority, but results from the momentary inability to accept the new spiritual reality. Modern depth psychology helps to understand this picture. Intense mourning processes, when not worked through, can keep the mind trapped in prolonged states of pain. Excessive attachment to people, social roles, or emotional identities can hinder the internal reorganization necessary to move forward. On the spiritual plane, this mechanism is amplified, as consciousness no longer has the distraction resources of material life. Spiritism clarifies that Widow Foulon does not suffer for having been bad, but for being unable to emotionally detach from the past. Her pain is essentially moral and affective. She still lives, in thought and feeling, the life she lost, which prevents her from fully perceiving the possibilities of the new state of existence. Contemporary science reinforces this reading by demonstrating that intense emotional states shape the perception of reality. When the mind remains fixated on a single internal narrative, suffering perpetuates itself. Liberation occurs when there is acceptance, reframing, and openness to the new. This process, on the spiritual plane, also requires time and assistance. Another important point of the testimony is the absence of conscious revolt against divine justice. Widow Foulon does not accuse, does not blaspheme, does not rebel. She suffers because she does not yet fully understand the meaning of the transition she is experiencing. This suffering, although real, is temporary. As she receives clarification and support, her consciousness gradually reorganizes. Spiritism shows, with this account, that misunderstood love can become a source of pain. To love is not to possess or to depend emotionally in an absolute way. When affection is not balanced by conscious detachment, it turns into an inner prison. Spiritual life invites us to transform love into a free bond without exclusivity and without attachment. This testimony also highlights the importance of emotional preparation while still alive. Developing emotional autonomy, understanding the impermanence of forms, and valuing bonds without becoming trapped by them creates a lighter consciousness, capable of crossing over with greater serenity. Widow Foulon represents many souls who suffer not out of malice, but from excessive attachment. Her account teaches us that spiritual evolution requires not only good intentions, but also emotional maturity and the ability to let go of what has already fulfilled its role. Reflecting on this testimony is an invitation to compassion and self-knowledge. It reminds us that love is essential, but learning to let go is also a fundamental part of the growth of consciousness. If this account helped you reflect on attachment, grief, and emotional maturity, like, share, and leave your comment. Your participation helps this message reach more people.